The Grammy Museum fosters and inspires the next generation of music's creators. From our career-building Grammy Camp, where students learn from some of music's most celebrated and enduring creators, to our education workshops and grants program for classrooms in need. Join the Grammy Museum today and help inspire the next generation of students through the power of music.
All right, so welcome to another Grammy Museum Backstage Pass. We have a very exciting guest with us today who took the time out to just share her experience, her story, her journey with us. And, you know, it's not every day we get icons and legends to come and sit with us for our education programs, but we're excited to have not only a musical trendsetter, but a fashion trendsetter, a dance trendsetter, a business woman, so many different titles that we can give our guest today. But I want, you know, to introduce our guest for today, Miss Jody Watley. Jody, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
You know, in my introduction, I was trying to figure out what's the best way to introduce, because there's so many different things that you do. and I'm just wondering, what was the first love for you? Was it the singing? Was it the dancing? Was it the what was your very first love?
Well, first I have to go back and say to everyone who doesn't know that I am also a Grammy nominee and I am a Grammy winner. I am the best new artist. I was cleaning off my trophy, but 1987, the ceremony 1988 at Radio City Music Hall. So many titles, and music has always been just at the forefront of my life as early as I can remember.
Wow. So take us back to the beginning. And yes, we definitely best new artist, Grammy award winning. We can't forget that. That's, you know, that's super exciting. Grammy award winning, and then you also nominated for a few other Grammy Soul Train Awards, MTV Music Video Awards. So we're excited to have you here. But take us back to, you know, the very beginning. I know you said music has always been there. When did it become a point to where you said, okay, I'm going to actually pursue this as a career? When did that transition happen?
You know, I think I had my mind made up at 5, and I say that because my mom, who's still alive, and she's, you know, she reminds me from time to time that, you know, I was making proclamations as a little girl while I was performing like most kids in the mirror with the brush, and, you know, just going forward and pretending like I was performing in front of thousands of people. I just have always tried to place myself, number one, to be prepared for any opportunity. And I encourage young people of all ages to planning and preparation, because you never know what you actually, even when you have hopes and dreams, you never know what opportunity may come your way. So you always have to be, you know, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And so my family moved to California. I'm from Chicago originally. And my start actually was a dancer on the Soul Train TV show as a teenager. And I always hoped that opportunity would lead to something else, and it did. And here I am.
That's amazing. Now, that's quick. 5 years old, you already knew what you wanted to do. Now, I read somewhere, and I was like, I got to ask her if this is true. Now, I think you were around 8 years old, and you had one of your very first stage performances, and it's with who they said was your godfather, Jackie Wilson. Is that, can you confirm, is that something that, can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's true. Jackie Wilson, music legend. If you don't know, Google him, look him up. He influenced Michael Jackson and even singers today, Chris Brown, Bruno Mars. They might not even know it, but Jackie Wilson was really, they called him Mr. Excitement. Dynamic performer, singer, good looking. He was a great friend of my dad. And so that's how he became, like, you know, my godfather. And Black people, everybody's a godfather, auntie, you know. So he was my godfather, and brought me on stage at one of his concerts. My dad had, you know, he wanted me to come to the show, bring me to the show. And I didn't know he was going to bring me on stage. I was a shy child. I knew I wanted to entertain and design all these things. But that was my first stage appearance, and he was singing Baby Work Out, and I worked it out.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, Jackie Wilson is amazing. You know, that's an incredible story. I was like, man, I can't wait to talk to her about that. That's amazing. Now, I know you mentioned dancing on Soul Train, but what was dancing just something that you were doing around the house? And because not only were you just like a dancer on Soul Train, you became one of the first dancers who was asked to come back and be a part of the show and on a regular basis. You were one of the main dancers. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, how you got into dancing and what that Soul Train experience was like for you?
Well, in junior high school at the time, and for those, again, because I know I'm talking to young people, Soul Train was an iconic TV show. It was the first show that really gave a spotlight to Black music artists and the dancers. It was all about the dancers, what the dancers were wearing, what dances were they doing. So living in the Midwest in Chicago, again, when our family moved out to California, that was the #1 thing. I needed to be on Soul Train because, you know, that was it. All my friends, you know, it's like, oh, you know, you're going to be on Soul Train. So as fate would have it, I was, because I was trying to figure out and didn't know where it taped or anything. And I was asked to go on by a boy I met in church. He came up to me and asked if I'd be interested to go on Soul Train. His partner was out of town and I nearly fainted. I'm like, yes, oh my God, like, yeah. So long story short, that was my first time on the show. So once I knew where it taped and that they taped on the 3rd weekend of every month, I would catch the bus and go up to the studio and get turned away because I wasn't on the list. I'd ride the bus home, you know, cry, disappointed, go back again that Sunday, the next month. So this continued. I would just be humiliated. I snuck in a few times, would get called out, you know, you're not on the list, get out. So determination, people, be determined. So finally I got in there and was dancing, and Don Cornelius, who was the visionary host and creator of the show, eventually, you know, they asked, you know, my name, where was I from? So then I became a regular dancer on the show. My name was on the list. And the funny thing, I'll say real quick, the first time I went on as a solo artist, I made a joke to Don Cornelius, it's on YouTube. And I say I was so happy to be there with my name on the list. And he knew exactly what I meant because I used to get put out of there all the time. So determination.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. You kept going until they gave you the spot. No, and you know, that type of determination, it seems like, you know, from a young age, you had this type of drive. What inspired your passion or your drive? Was it, you know, the family members around? Is this something that you just always had? But where did this passion and this drive come from?
You know, it's just in me. I don't know. My dad used to say, you know, only the strong survive. He was always, you know, he, you know, had these mantras, you know, it's not what other people think about you, it's what you think of yourself. And so, you know, he was always saying I was going to be a superstar, be famous. So my dad was my first cheerleader, rest his soul. And he never got to live to see me do it. But I think that just always wanting to push myself, because often I give the analogy, you know, when I was little, you know, kids, like it was a thing to get pulled in the wagon. All the kids, you know, you get in the wagon. And when it was my turn to get pulled in the wagon, no one ever wanted to put, all the kids would disperse. So I'm just there with the wagon with the handle on the ground. So, you know, I learned, I think you have to pull your own wagon is really something that is just with me, because often there's only been me really pushing and continuing to this day to always push myself and to never give up. And I don't, you know, I work on that. I think sometimes it's within us, but I think especially as you grow up and everything, and with so many challenges, you really have to determine that you're going to make it. You're going to make it. And then I think the universe conspires with you to help you make it in life, whatever that is.
I love that. I love that. You know, and it seems like, you know, you held on to that, because you mentioned earlier that when you pushed your way and made sure that you were on the list for Soul Train, but that wasn't the end goal. That was just kind of like something that you wanted to do to get to the bigger goal. So, which was, you know, your music, your artistry. So around the time you were doing Soul Train, where were you at musically? Were you singing? Were you working on the craft? Were you recording? Where were you at that time frame?
You know, I started writing poetry. I would like to say poetry, junior high, high school, because as our family was going through a lot of struggles, poetry became my escape, and writing in general. I used to write short stories. I wrote a book at one point that was like 300 pages long when I was in 7th grade. It was a teen romance novel, even though I had no idea what I was writing about, but all my friends wanted to read it, and just, you know, kid stuff. But so the love of writing turned into songwriting. So I'd be humming things. Being on Soul Train, you know, I had the opportunity to get chosen by Aretha Franklin, Queen of Soul, to appear in her show. She sang Natural Woman, and she picked 4 dancers to represent different facets of this businesswoman, you know, the entertainer, the nurse, the mom, like different things. And so she chose me to be the entertainer. So, you know, it's just, again, being ready for these opportunities. And so from my popularity on the show, I became very recognized from my look, from what I wore. People wanted to, you know, the girls wanted to dress like me and, you know, do their hairstyles like me. So never being afraid to be unique will always, you know, you're going to stand out. You might get ridiculed for it. Some people might be jealous of you about it. But from that, Don Cornelius created the group Shalimar, and so he ultimately chose me to be in that group, and I was in there for a short time, 6 years, but pivotal years for that group. And all along, you know, I'm just really focused on being better as a singer, as a songwriter, and really my solo career, you know, is where I really became Jody Watley to totally, you know, exceed anything I ever could have imagined.
Wow. I mean, there's so much that to unpack in there, because I want to definitely jump into, there's so much question about the solo career that I want to talk about. But before we go on there, just for the people who, you know, don't know the full background, I know you mentioned how the group Shalimar was brought together, but tell us a little bit from your point of view. What was those early stages like? What was the songwriting process like? How was it being in the group that you guys were able to come up with some great songs together?
Well, we didn't get to write much. It was it's a put together group, so there wasn't really control over anything. And the typical bad contract. So, you know, everybody always, even though you want to make it, just get a lawyer, get someone to really read the contracts, because you end up getting ripped off, and then it's not enjoyable, because you can have a hit record and then realize it's like, oh, I'm still broke. This is not really what I thought it was going to be. But, you know, what it did for me, you know, you grow from your learning, your challenges, and being a young girl, you know, still a teenager, and really having to stand up for myself as a young girl, you know, because there was no protection for me. And so, you know, to the young ladies out there, to always hold on to yourself, and, you know, don't allow yourself to be disrespected. And sometimes you get called some unflattering names, but that's okay. You just have to, it made me even more resilient, is what I'm saying. And, you know, I would be writing songs. They weren't really used. I think maybe 3 songs during my time were eventually on a couple albums. But it was you know, people loved the songs, but we didn't really have any control over what it was.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it just ties into what you're talking about right now, because you are talking about, like bad contracts or business things like that, and you were able to learn from that experience and not only get into a situation where you had more control creatively, but you went off to start your own company as well. So can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to start your own company, and just as a entrepreneur, how did that affect the creativity at all, having to balance the, because nowadays artists who coming up they're having to juggle the business and the music together, and you've been doing that. You were one of the first to do that. Can you talk a little bit about that balance?
Coming out of the major label system, and fortunately I was able, in launching my solo career, to be able to write songs and choose my producers and have control over my image and all of that. And growing from that, going independent in '95 was very rare, and now it's totally the way to go. It's very common. And again, I say to everyone, it's like, it's show business. So the business is really greater than the show. So, it's something that has given me longevity as a songwriter, as an artist, and being an entrepreneur, and continuing to learn and grow, because you achieve things, set new goals, but you really have to be about the business of music, the business of your craft, the business of you. Is very important.
Well, take us into your solo career. What was the transition from the group to the solo career? Because I know you started to experiment with different sounds. You moved overseas for a while to England. Was there any inspiration from the sound that was happening over there that you took into your own style? What was that transition like to kind of shape your own sound?
Well, leaving the group, I moved to London. I lived there for 3 years. And the music scene at the time was very exciting. It's like British pop music, Duran Duran and George Michael, Boy George and Culture Club. And so I just really soaked all that in. And I love the innovation and how with the concerts and the lighting, and it was just a whole new world. And so I was able to put my plan together. So when I went looking for a deal, I would know exactly what it is I wanted to do. And I know I wanted to be as far away from what the group had been like. I wanted to be edgier and more dance. I didn't want to do any ballads on my first album. I knew what I want the photography to look like. So I had pull sheets of fashion magazines of, just, really getting it together. But I took the time to really study what it is that I wanted to do. So from the first meeting I had in Gerald Busby, who signed me at MCA, may he rest in peace. And he respected that, here's a young Black lady who, a female artist, just she knows what she wants, and he loved that. And not all executives really appreciate when women are outspoken and know what you want. And it's very important because, once first impression is often the lasting impression. So know who you are when you're doing stuff, people. You got to know who you are.
I love that. No, I love that. And I love how you mentioned how, now you're kind of able to break free and kind of really be the artist that you always, wanted to be. You're able to, incorporate more of your ideas and, not just from the look, but even from the songwriting. And I want to talk a little bit about your process. 'Cause I know you mentioned, you started with poems and short stories, but when you're going in the studio or you're, writing a new song, what is your process like? Do you start with a melody? Do you, get some piano, guitar? But how do you start a new song idea?
It's always different. My first smash hit single, my solo debut, Looking for a New Love, I actually was going through a breakup. And I remember the song came to me, and it's really great when that happens. Just, gave you love, you did me wrong. So it's like the melody was there and the lyrics, and I sat on my bedroom floor and sung it into my tape recorder, and couldn't wait to get to the studio to write it. And sometimes, you know, I might be in my car. Sometimes it's a lyric. Sometimes it's a melody. Sometimes it's the hook. You know, but want me? Don't you want me? It's like, yeah, that's, you know. And I've been able to collaborate with like-minded people too. And it's just really the art of storytelling and being relatable, you know. From my current song, The Healing, it's just what's in your heart, what's real, not really trying to craft, oh, I think this will be a hit. It's like, you got to just write from your heart, and everything else will take care of itself usually.
And I noticed that too. I was listening to the song The Healing too, and I noticed that it seems like as you got to control more of what you wanted to write, you weren't just so concerned about, oh, I want to make the biggest, you know, pop smash or this. You wanted to actually have your music say something, and then whatever happens with it happens with it. So why is it important for you to have like that type of message in your music, to have a message at all in your music?
Well, I think one thing is my goals have changed from, you know, like I said, I did have control over everything that I was doing when I was with MCA, when I, you know, very fortunate with that. But, you know, I wanted to kick everybody's ass, so to speak, because nobody thought I would succeed. I was coming out of a group. She'll fail. She won't make it. So you know, pop music, dance. And so it was kind of like you hit a home run and it's just out of the park. You just go. And I've said it throughout my career. It's like from that moment, I was just free to just continue to be fearless, to be an artist, because it showed me that, number one, I had great ideas, and that the greatest thing about it is it was me. It was Jody Watley. So when I won Best New Artist, and if you watch my speech and I start crying, and people remember it, because, you know, I said I want to thank the people who believed in me when a lot of people didn't. And so to this day, it's really being true to myself is the greatest success ever. So from my first album, solo album, second, third, fourth, and then I just, you know, have gone into so many different genres, you know, electronica, you know, neo. So it's what I feel, and the message, you know. When my third album, Affairs of the Heart, you know, the movie Boys in the Hood was out at the time, and we were, you know, rap music was becoming, you know, more dominant on the radio, and a lot of misogyny. And so that was a more introspective album. Intimacy, my fourth album, I was going through a divorce, and so that music reflected that. So really, you know, again, as an artist and a songwriter, you should be free to explore. Some people, as artists, like if you just want to be a pop star, then you'll just be in that vortex, and that's a game that you play. It's like you'll just be in that box. And I never have wanted to be in any box. I just, you know, it's like I'm Jody Watley. I just want to do what I love.
Yeah, you know, and I saw that quote too, where you said, you know, you want to thank the people who believed in you when other people didn't. And you know, it seems like you need that. So everybody needs that type of support system. So who was that support system, or those influences that you had coming up, who kind of helped you to become who you are?
You know, like I said, my dad was the first. It was always encouraging me. You know, my mom has been there for me. I have a couple diehard best friends that, you know, from high school, that are my ride or dies, and through the good and bad, they're there. But really, I don't really I wasn't mentored by anyone. There's no one that's ever taken me under their wing. I've had managers that actually didn't believe in me, but signed me. And so then I really, you know, and everybody needs somebody. And like I said, I work with great writers and producers and everything, but it's really I'm like a lone wolf, to be honest with you. It's like there's no, and even having the blessing to have the longevity that I do and continue to do everything that I do. There's nobody that I'm the captain of the ship. There's nobody that is trying to open, you know, it's just, you know, like right now I you know, have a great, you know, Pam is wonderful. And she is like, she's working with her is amazing. And so I was saying, you know, I haven't really worked with anyone in a long time that, you know, believes in me in this way. And so it's just, if you just keep at it, people come and go, and then you meet some great people and you're like-minded. But ultimately, I'm the one that's really pushing this ship along.
No, I mean, that just goes to show that the passion and drive that you had from a little girl still continues into the womanhood, and you know, you continue to thrive. And you brought in a little bit about the hip hop scene around that time, and you actually, with one of your songs, Friends, kind of introduced a whole new format in this popular music, where you had, you know, Eric B and Rakim feature on a track, and now you see that becomes like the new norm, having a pop, you know, artist with the hip hop artist. So what were you thinking to, you know, do something so innovative at that time? What made you do that collaboration?
I'm a big fan of Eric B and Rakim. Rakim is one of the greatest MCs of all time. I just loved him. And again, if you don't know, look him up. I paid in full. I ain't no joke. I mean, just the best. So in writing Friends, I was hearing it as, at the time, it was so new. I pitched it as a duet. I wanted to do a duet with Rakim. And so the label, at first they weren't into it. They didn't see how we matched because he wasn't in the pop chart scene. You know, very hardcore, true, like MC rap, hip hop artist. So I did convince them to do it. And then Rakim totally dug the song. It's a song about friends, is betrayal, backstabbing, you know, people hating on you, you know, jealousy and envy. And I was just hearing Rakim's voice on his verses. And luckily he dug it. And we made history with it. It is the first rap song, you know, collaboration, original song that crossed over top 10 on multiple charts. And a lot of people still to this day don't realize how groundbreaking we were with it. They'll think, oh, it's Mariah Carey or Mary J. Blige. It's like, no, we did it in 1989, and it is the first. And it's still a dope song. It's just, you know, friends are hard to find, so be careful. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's a great song. Yeah, Rakim, yeah, one of the greatest, who influenced people like Jay-Z, who, you know,
Yes.
yeah. So no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, like I said, there's so many different elements to your creativity, and you're involved in so many different forms of art. So I'm wondering, when you're creating a song, do you see the full vision? Like, do you think about, like, okay, this song, I can wear this type of look with it, or I can move this type of way with the dancing? How much of your art is intertwined with each other when you're creating?
You know what? Writing the songs are in some ways very visual, but I haven't always thought of what the vibe, the video would be like, or what outfits would go with it. It's usually the song. For instance, when I wrote with Real Love, and that video ended up being, I worked with David Fincher, who's now an Academy Award winning director. He was just starting out then. And I just knew, for some reason, I wanted to be on the runway. I just, after I finished the song, because when I was writing it with Andre, I wrote it with Andre Simone. I thought, I didn't know what it was, but then once it was done, I was just thinking, oh, this is the runway, because it just had a good walking vibe to it. And I said, oh yes, this is runway. And so David Fincher, collaborating with him, he just brought the idea to life, because it, you know, it's always been my fantasy to one of them to be on the catwalk. So I worked it out, and it's still one of the most nominated videos on MTV. And so it just really depends. I did Still a Thrill on my first album. We did it in Paris. I didn't think the video director, Bryant Grant, that was his idea. Let's film it at the Paris Opera House. I'm like, oh yes, snap, that's yes. Just me twirling through the streets of Paris and the Opera House, which was the first time they'd allowed, you know, pop music artists to film there. So again, aligning with people who, you know, you may not totally think it, and then when they say it's, oh heck yeah, that's it. So it really it depends.
No, I love that. I love that. And yeah, I love that video too. You on the runway, it just shows a different style of you. And just thinking about how ahead of the time you was, because now, you know, I mean, fashion and music has always been, you know, something that complement each other. But you see artists now taking on a whole, you know, another lane where they're focusing just on the fashion, and that's something that you've been doing, you know, for a while. And another thing I found out was, you know, you even experimented with, you did some Broadway as well too, playing it in Greece as well. And I just wonder, what was that experience like? How different was that from, you know, the norm of recording in the studio to going and you know, performing on Broadway each night?
Before I get to that, I just want to say with music and fashion, it's interesting because, you know, when I was first coming out in being in like Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, no other artist, Black, the only, you know, Madonna maybe, but not like I was doing. And so the first feature that I got in Harper's Bazaar, the label didn't want to pay for it because they didn't know what being in a fashion magazine had to do with music. And so, you know, I want to say that because fast forward now, it's so common to see artists on the covers of these magazines. So, you know, that's a door, another one that I helped to open that, because it wasn't, you know, it's like, well, what does one have to do with the other? And to me, it's like the greatest artists, they always have great style. There's something that stands out about the great, like you can have a visual of them. And so, you know, so I'm proud to see how it's progressed, to see someone like Rihanna to be able to expand her business and beauty and fashion and the whole bit. Because I was having meetings back then trying to get clothing line and, you know, beauty line, all these things. And people would, you know, executives would just look at me like with blank eyes. So I'm happy to see how it's evolved so much, and you know, artists are able to really capitalize off of the ones that do have great style too, and business savvy to make it count. And so it's always been about, I guess, you know, I was branding before branding was a thing. It's like the hoop earrings. It's like everybody to this day, like they love the hoop earrings. And so things that are identifiable, and being fearless led me to Broadway to play Rizzo in Greece. And that was great. You know, doing theater is, you know, of course, so many ways to be involved in music business. And Broadway and theater, local theater, Broadway is another. And it was a great experience.
No, that's awesome, and I'm glad that you went back and touched on that point, because yeah, there's that's it's almost synonymous now. You think about an artist, it's like, okay, now we got to think about their fashion, we got to think about this, and you know, even think about how can we get them in a movie, or can we get them, you know, and you were doing all that, opening so many doors. You know, fast forward to present day. I mean, you still have your label, you're still releasing music. Just tell us about what you're working on now, and what is it that keeps your drive going?
You know, I think it keeps me young and vibrant in the constant pursuit of just the possibilities. There's always endless possibilities. Even if you achieve something, it's like, my thing is never get stuck where you were. It's like, I've done so many great things, but I always like, okay, I want to do this now. I want to do, like, I'm still that little kid, really. It's like, I want to do this. I'm going to have my line and my own business and this, you know, I'm still her. And so today, you know, releasing quality music is still very important to me. I just launched a home and wellness line and looking forward to expanding on that. So many other projects I still have in my head all the time. Sometimes I have insomnia because my brain is just going. It's like, oh, I want to do this and this. And so there, I just say, you know, there's more to come. And, you know, I hope I'm an inspiration for young people, and also, you know, for veteran artists too, to not be stuck in the past and to keep keep it moving, you know. And, you know, the celebration to not just be here, but be thriving and like I said, and I said in the healing, you know, embrace the possibilities of the future, you know, because it's what we have now. So I'm all about that. And wattage is the light, and always let it shine and spread it to other people.
Love it. I love it. I mean, your whole career, your whole journey has opened up the doors for, you know, so many people. We see, you know, your influence even in today's time, and especially for, you know, you're somebody that, you know, young women and even young women of color, Black women, young women of color can look at you and see your journey and get inspired. What type of advice would you give for specifically for the young women, young Black women, young women of color who's trying to get into this entertainment business?
You know, be authentic is number one, and hold on to yourself. Don't make any decisions that you may regret down the line, because a lot of sharks in the water that will promise you things or try to take advantage of you. And don't be afraid to say, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. You
No,
know?
yeah. Don't be afraid of no. Yeah.
Don't be afraid of no. And, you know who you are. You know, always define yourself for yourself.
I love that. I think know who you are. I mean, I think that's advice that we all can take. And just in general, you know, is there any, you know, like words of encouragement that you would give to people who are trying to just find their way? Maybe they're you know, interested in music, or maybe they don't know if they want to be a business owner or go into fashion. I mean, you cover so many different things. What would you say? What advice would you give for somebody who's trying to find their way?
Take advantage of technology, information, read, study, you know, take business classes, just keep learning. It's so important, and everything is all in our phone, you know, our mobile devices. So research, if you don't know something, you know, look it up and apply it to how it can work for you. You know, I make it a point every day I'm reading business articles. There's like something that we can all learn every day. And like I was saying, the light, don't reduce your light for anyone, because, you know, you may have your circle of people may not want you to succeed. So know your circle, you know, and you got to remove people that are toxic and don't want to see you win. So I say that light, that inner light, the wattage, and that your brain, use your mind. And, you know, because, you know, you can have a beautiful face, or, you know, be a good looking guy or girl or whatever, but you got to have some sense. So, you know, so use your mind and learn, read. And that's very important.
I love that. You know, last question I want to ask, you know, for the people who view our education programs and our workshops, we cover, you know, a variety of different topics, from, you know, producing to songwriting, music business. And one other workshop that we do that, you know, is really relevant to the times that we're in right now. We do a workshop called Music of the Civil Rights Movement. And in this workshop, the goal really is to show students how, you know, music is a form of entertainment, but it's also a form of a way that you can express yourself, or you can comfort yourself, or maybe there's a difficult situation, you play this song or you write this song. How has music helped you through hard times, and to maybe even express frustrations and just different challenges that you've gone through? How has music been a form of support for you in that way?
I mean, music, I can't imagine life without music. Like I wrote in Affairs of the Heart, it's like, I don't want to live without love. I don't want to live without music. Music can make you dance, cry, think, be inspired, be encouraged. It just takes us through, it's the soundtrack of our lives. Like no matter how young you are, old you are, it's like music is there. Sometimes music is your best friend. It is there for you to help you think and get through. And, I want to say too, not every song that you write has to be a hit or for the world. It's like write to express what you feel and what you think. And, with everything with civil unrest, the civil rights movement, music has always been integral to so many people. To inspire, to give strength, and to give courage. And if that is something that you are attracted to as a writer, don't be afraid of that. And then at the same time, if that's not your lane, you can still find a way to write and be inspirational that is in your own voice.
Wow. I mean, I think that was the perfect way to end this. That was so inspiring. Well, we want to just thank you for doing this for us. We know that all of our viewers who are going to check this out, I'm sure they're going to be in for a treat with this. But I just want to let the last words be go to you. If there's any last thing that you want to say before we wrap up.
It's wattage, embrace your wattage, everybody. We all have it, and never let anyone think you don't have it, because we all have it. It's whether we, pull up and let it out, shine.
Jody Watley, thank you so much, Miss Watley. Thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to having you back in person when we open back up.
We'd love to. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.